Indeed, it was a kind of miracle. To miss them was another miracle. It will take a century to produce another man who can place the 4 discs in the 10, and longer than that to find a man who can't knock them out. I was ashamed of my performance at the time, but now that I reflect upon it, I see that it was rather fine and difficult. Mr. Thomas kept his luck, and won the game, and later the championship. In a minor tournament I won the prize, which was a Waterbury watch. I put it in my trunk. In Pretoria, South Africa, 9 months afterward, my proper watch broke down, and I took the Waterbury out, wound it, set it by the great clock on the Parliament House, 8:05, then went back to my room and went to bed, tired from a long railway journey. The parliamentary clock had a peculiarity which I was not aware of at the time, a peculiarity which exists in no other clock, and would not exist in that one if it had been made by a sane person. On the half hour it strikes the succeeding hour, then strikes the hour again at the proper time. I lay reading and smoking a while. Then, when I could hold my eyes open no longer and was about to put out the light, the great clock began to boom, and I counted 10. I reached for the Waterbury to see how it was getting along. It was marking 9:30. It seemed rather poor speed for a $3 watch, but I supposed that the climate was affecting it. I shoved it half an hour ahead, and took to my book and waited to see what would happen. At 10 the great clock struck 10 again. I looked. The Waterbury was marking half past 10. This was too much speed for the money, and it troubled me. I pushed the hands back a half hour, and waited once more. I had to, for I was vexed and restless now, and my sleepiness was gone. By and by the great clock struck 11. The Waterbury was marking 10:30. I pushed it ahead half an hour, with some show of temper. By and by the great clock struck 11 again. The Waterbury showed up 11:30 now, and I beat her brains out against the bedstead. I was sorry next day when I found out. To return to the ship. The average human being is a perverse creature, and when he isn't that he is a practical joker. The result to the other person concerned is about the same, that is, he is made to suffer. The washing down of the decks begins at a very early hour in all ships. In but few ships are any measures taken to protect the passengers, either by waking or warning them or by sending a steward to close their ports, and so the deck washers have their opportunity, and they use it. They send a bucket of water slashing along the side of the ship and into the ports, drenching the passenger's clothes, and often the passenger himself. This good old custom prevailed in this ship, and under unusually favorable circumstances, for in the blazing tropical regions a removable zinc thing, like a sugar shovel, projects from the port to catch the wind and bring it in. This thing catches the wash-water and brings it in, too, and in flooding abundance. Mrs. I, an invalid, had to sleep on the locker sofa under her port, and every time she overslept, and thus failed to take care of herself, the deck washers drowned her out. And the painters, what a good time they had! This ship would be going into dock for a month in Sydney for repairs, but no matter, painting was going on all the time somewhere or other. The ladies' dresses were constantly getting ruined, nevertheless protests and supplications went for nothing. Sometimes a lady, taking an afternoon nap on deck near a ventilator or some other thing that didn't need painting, would wake up by and by and find that the humorous painter had been noiselessly daubing that thing, and had splattered her white gown all over with little greasy yellow spots. The blame for this untimely painting did not lie with the ship's officers, but with custom. As far back as Noah's time it became law that ships must be constantly painted and fussed at when at sea. Custom grew out of the law, and at sea custom knows no death. This custom will continue until the sea goes dry. September 8th, Sunday. We are moving so nearly south that we cross only about 2 meridians of longitude a day. This morning we were in longitude 178 west from Greenwich and 57 degrees west from San Francisco. Tomorrow we shall be close to the center of the globe, the 180th degree of west longitude and 180th degree of east longitude. And then we must drop out a day, lose a day out of our lives, a day never to be found again. We shall all die one day earlier than from the beginning of time we were foreordained to die. We shall be a day behindhand all through eternity. We shall always be saying to the other angels, "Fine day today," and they will always be retorting, "But it isn't today, it's tomorrow." We shall be in a state of confusion all the time, and shall never know what true happiness is. Next day, sure enough, it has happened. Yesterday it was September 8th, Sunday. Today, per the bulletin board at the head of the companionway, it is September 10th, Tuesday. There is something uncanny about it, and uncomfortable. In fact, nearly unthinkable, and wholly unrealizable when one comes to consider it. While we were crossing the 180th meridian, it was Sunday in the stern of the ship, where my family were, and Tuesday in the bow, where I was. They were there eating the half of a fresh apple on the 8th, and I was at the same time eating the other half of it on the 10th, and I could notice how stale it was already. The family were the same age that they were when I had left them 5 minutes before, but I was a day older now than I was then. The day they were living in stretched behind them halfway round the globe, across the Pacific Ocean and America and Europe. The day I was living in stretched in front of me around the other half to meet it. They were stupendous days for bulk and stretch, apparently much larger days than we had ever been in before. All previous days had been but shrunk-up little things by comparison. The difference in temperature between the 2 days was very marked, their day being hotter than mine because it was closer to the equator. Along about the moment that we were crossing the great meridian a child was born in the steerage, and now there is no way to tell which day it was born on. The nurse thinks it was Sunday, the surgeon thinks it was Tuesday. The child will never know its own birthday. It will always be choosing first one and then the other, and will never be able to make up its mind permanently. This will breed vacillation and uncertainty in its opinions about religion and politics and business and sweethearts and everything, and will undermine its principles, and rot them away, and make the poor thing characterless, and its success in life impossible. Everyone in the ship says so, and this is not all, in fact not the worst, for there is an enormously rich brewer in the ship who said, as much as 10 days ago, that if the child was born on his birthday he would give it $10,000 to start its little life with. His birthday was Monday, the 9th of September. If the ships all moved in the one direction, westward I mean, the world would suffer a prodigious loss in the matter of valuable time through the dumping overboard on the great meridian of such multitudes of days by ships' crews and passengers. But fortunately the ships do not all sail west, half of them sail east, so there is no real loss. These latter pick up all the discarded days and add them to the world's stock again, and about as good as new, too, for of course the salt water preserves them. End of chapter 4.